Bah! What's up? Welcome back. Early bird gets the worm. It's about 5 o'clock right now. We are going to cover the Gravel Kings Explorer Trans and Oil Cooler third window scoops. Right now I am just getting my cart ready with all my necessities and kind of getting all my load out dialed for going over to work on the truck. We do have a small space here, but it's efficient to work with the cart like I've talked about before. Kind of see I'm just getting this thing ready. Let me see. So just getting my necessities. Like I know that I'm going to be working with, you know, aluminum and not so much tube or a bunch of plate, so I can kind of tailor the cart to what I need. Keeps it on there. I'm not wasting table space, which is valuable. All the real estate in here is pretty valuable because it's small. So it's nice to just have that cart, have all your crap on there. You know, I have this foam. It's on here. It's actually just fuel cell foam, but it kind of makes all your tools pop so you can see. There's good contrast. I'm going to finalize this thing and then we're going to get over to the Explorer. So another thing too, anytime you get these little, let's call them trinket boxes of shit where it just builds up for your project, they add up quick and it really turns into little junk piles, little like mouse collections of shit on your tables or box. So I always try to clean these after every project. This one's 2 projects in, and you can see it's just a mess. There's like clecos and rotor broaches and spring plates and butt plug stuff. So we'll get this stuff straightened out too before I start my new project. Cart's pretty dialed. Again, I get it in its spot. Just been moving stuff around right now. So you can kind of see just the basics, hammers, template stuff, small little things like transfers, files, and then hardcore clamping down here, some of the abrasive stuff, some of the electric stuff. It's a good starter kit. And then I kind of keep all my like layout and straight edges. You can never have enough straight edges. So that's that. These are really useful things to have too. These are all just solid billets of things, just old like drops from steel from other jobs that people have had, and I have a guy that comes in and drops these off to me because he knows I like them. I'm like a little hoarder with them, so they're always great to have. That's 3/4 chromoly plate, which is really good to hit stuff on, or break like dark arts edges off of. And there's our car. So I mean, what you can see right off the bat is this setup works like it is. It's a matter, you know, I don't think the thing's really getting hot. Well, I know it's not getting hot, but it's just nice to put a treatment on here. So this is a functional treatment. I have it drawn in the computer as far as just being sketched up and drawn over. I need to make those prints, but it's too early in the morning to go print. So right now I'm just gonna prep this thing, kind of build a perimeter. I think that's the first thing, but I'll show you on my phone what we have here. What we got here is just, this is something flimsy. I think it's like Lexan or something. I can see the hardware through the wrap, so I want to just get it all removed and probably build like a aluminum perimeter. Just cut out enough like of the space I know I don't need, pretty much where this is, and see where I'm gonna start. There's a couple things right off the bat that, you know, I'm trying to figure out like the transitions. Like I don't know if I want to build maybe a top surface, because I talk about building perimeter, but I don't know if I want to build a top surface and then break out and kind of get the shape. So it would be like one piece that's broke with the scoop, and then another lower piece that's broke out with, that's doing, you know, the same shape as the top where it's meeting it. That sounded really stupid, but regardless, I'm just gonna take that apart and then figure out my best process and efficient process. And usually, you know, the other thing too is to try to figure out a way to do the least amount of welding, where you can really kind of shape it properly, where it doesn't need to have just seam after seam of welding. So another thing to really get in the habit of doing is level out the vehicle X and Y. So, you know, width and length. You can see this thing is squatted in a way that's definitely not level. And when you are building anything on a car, I mean, especially something that you have to do on each side, you really want to practice just getting these things level, so then you can bank. Like if I have angles that I'm measuring here, you know, or if I have lines, you know, either horizontal or certain, you know, angles that I want to be able to transfer to the other side. And if you have the thing not level, it'll really shit the bed on you. Dude, deburr your stuff. Look at this thing. What are we doing here? That literally from the bottom of the valence, there's the nastiest edge on there, like someone used a really bad shear for it. Anyways, it's just another flesh wound. So yeah, got the truck level where we want it. Pretty easy. Sometimes you can't just go off that. You got to get up front and counter it, so it's teeter-tottering where it needs to be. That's gonna ensure that we're able to bank on proper angles side to side, and then also, you know, like this level being proper. So you know, it just, you can never, you know, rely on the wheels and the tires and just sitting on its own weight to be level. Especially, I've heard a recent horror story of someone having their vehicle in a shop and they have a slow leak, and they start to build stuff in the vehicle that needs to be leveled, and they don't pay attention to the slow leak, and then the car all of a sudden goes womp and limp dick on one side, and then all of a sudden their stuff's crooked. So just, it's a good habit. Here's what we have. It's what we're working with. A little bit of a gap here I wasn't expecting. Whoa. A little bit of a gap here I wasn't expecting, so I just have to make sure my design kind of tailors to that, and not the end of the world. Gave everything a general wipe down with acetone just to make sure my tape will stick. Fuel filler is capped. Both sides are off. So what I'm gonna do, kind of looking at this too, I think this hardware is for this actual box that's floating in here. So I have to be respectful of that hardware. I might not be able to get my piece as flush as I want unless I do something about this. What that looks like to me, so that's a nut on the back side of that thing. So I might need to do a countersink or just reevaluate that, maybe even a rivet. I don't think you really need to service this stuff too much. That box is going to live there, but I really do want to bank on getting a nice flat surface here, and that there's no way that this hardware here is going to enable me to have a surface consistent and flat. Right now I have corner rivets in each window. The hardware is out of there. I use the hardware as a clamping mechanism, but we're just gonna add a couple more rivets here. They're stainless, they're strong enough. I thought this was a bolt-on thing, but actually this whole box is part of the sill here too, so it's welded, so it's a little weird, but it's just gonna get riveted in. If it needs to be serviced or whatever, like the hardware was doing for it, it can come off later. There's a little bit of gap in here that I'm gonna pinch. But this is going to give us the surface that we need without having the big bolt heads sticking out. All right, so old locations. One, there was only 4 pieces of hardware on each side, but you can see there's provisions for 6. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 rivets. This thing's high and tight, so now I'm gonna get template work going, get a perimeter. I at least want to get these outside dimensions, even if I don't use like one piece and cut a hole in it. I just want to start covering it to figure out shapes and where I can tape and what kind of surface we're going to work with. What I'm looking at right now is this kick where the bedside comes out, that kind of flat top almost that it has, but its radius here, almost like a Coke bottle. I think we can get a win with the scoop and represent what this shape is here into the surface of the scoop. Hold my cold brew. What we got going on right now. So this is like my bottom strip. I am gonna go print out our reference picture and I'm gonna just plop it right on the window right here when the clock strikes 9. Right now, this is kind of tailored. Let's see here. So the return there, like that flat, this bottom area here is going to be our mounting surface, which is the shelf of the window. This kick out is going to be, the angle or the vertical side of the scoop. And that's what we're going to kind of cut, our like tapered radius, our scoop profile, if you will, like from looking from the top. Is going to be cut into this, and that's what's going to hold. So as far as pieces to this part, 1 bottom, 2 top, 3 side surface, 4 something going in here, and then on the behind the scenes there'll be some kind of a standoff here. That'll be a 5. That'll be like a spine where it's actually directing the air, because if it's a little taller than this, you're gonna have a pocket, especially if you're trying to follow the plane and the angle of the, like the glass house here, the window openings, you're already gonna have a triangle there of air that's gonna get through. So we'll just make some kind of directed piece that'll probably be riveted on with like aircraft rivets, just so it's low key. And then, something to direct it in. And then also, a lot of and thens there, guy. We will have ventilation, like a mesh break up in here, which will be functional because the air is going to come in and then go wall and then prop back out.
Back in action. I don't like the finish on this print, but it's enough to get the job done. Just gotta. So let's see what we got going on. That's the bottom piece we're talking about. It's definitely this angle. You can see that I've made the weight of the opening kind of positioned towards the bottom. So there's a lighter draft of an angle here, and then this is a steep guy. So that's what feels right. So I'm gonna work on this one. There's this is a pretty big opening. I don't know. This is the only sketch I did of this thing where I don't have a reference to how tall it is. So I'm going to go by feel. If it is taller, and what I mean by that is like if this thing runs a little bit out, we just got to do it within reason, but that will just only help get more air in there. Again, it doesn't necessarily need the air, but it's just a nice treatment for that back window where it looks finished. This is not a finished look regardless, and the way that I get why it's like this, but there's a way to make this better. Another thing with this, just like a lot of the other projects, is I am going to replicate every step per side on the vehicle. So even when I'm doing the layout where I can get clecos in for this first piece of material, and when I get this layout figured out, I'll go over to the other side and I'll transfer that layout, and then I will drill it, and I'll drill it, and so forth and so on. So every step of the way I'm consistent per side, where I'm not getting so many steps ahead of myself on one side of the vehicle that I shoot myself in the foot with the process on the other side, or I miss something, or something will just not feel right with driver and passenger connection.
just gonna establish, whoo, a slippery guy. Establish the grid here and check my layout so the hardware has kind of a consistent grid on the mounting surface here. Some of this stuff you can measure, and then some of it you just need to make sure it's hitting right. So this is, let me see if that's consistent, because that feels kind of weird right there too. Yeah, I think I want that. I want that plane to follow this. Same with this, and this is tighter. That angle is tighter than this. So you kind of got to get your winds in where you can. And then I'm gonna just divide that by 3 as soon as I get my distance right. I want to make sure I feel back there, and I know I can get a nutsert behind that without being interrupted by something. We're gonna get all of them. So it's just a good thing to do before you start drilling, because sometimes you'll drill into an area where you'll drill into an area where maybe you get an 1/8 inch bit, but you won't be able to get actual nutsert or a fastening device back there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the vertical surfaces without any kind of mounting points yet. I don't know what's going to go on here just yet. I know what I'm going to do here, I know what I'm going to do here, I know what I'm going to do here. But as far as mounting points to this, I'm not clear yet. So take this, take all the measurements off this, transfer it to the other side, and then drill these things out. All right, so I've got the upper hole layout, the lower hole layout done on both sides. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my template going on aluminum, do 2 of these, and then drill this, transfer my holes. I know where the layout is here, and I kind of have another line where the template sits, so I'm not drilling these first and then shooting blind with this template. I'd rather just drill the holes into the actual piece and then transfer them right into the body, and that saves me some guesswork as far as locating the locations here onto this piece. So I'm gonna get both pieces of aluminum done. Just gonna leave them large like this, where I can get the break that I want on each piece in here, and then dictate the profile and cut them and trim them, and then they'll be done for both sides. For just the basics, I run the Chicago Electric janky electric shear. It runs good. The last one I had, this is the second one I've had. The last one I had lasted 6 years. They make a Bauer brand. This is just the bullshitty junk, and it works, and it does steel and everything. So I've had good luck. I haven't, the Bauer one that they have, I've tried, but it sucks. So that's one item. The air saw. The air saw is probably the most valuable tool I have for sheet metal, just all around in fabrication. So I have this classic, this is the Snap-on Classic. I also have 2 of the newer ones, which are a 1 horsepower version. They're a good unit. Let me get it. So like I said, this is the Classic. This is not as much power, but this thing is so much smoother. I was really excited when they came out with the 1 horsepower. But you know, first off, the styling is not as nice on this. Not that that matters, but this guy is so much smoother of a cutter. These 1 horsepower can facilitate bigger blades, and they're just for going hard on stuff. But the precision and the accuracy with the bigger model is just not there. This thing takes the cake all the time. The other thing is blades. So this is a 3-inch blade, 24 tooth. TPI, not tooth. These are just a Jag 10 product. But that's your ticket, you know, and then like a clean, just a tube wax. kind of gone over that before too. I just live by this tube wax. This stuff works so good. It's a must for cutting anything, just so your stuff doesn't get packed up and the aluminum doesn't start to clog in the blade. So you get a lot of use out of these. With aluminum, you can really go far with on one blade. With steel, you know, it's just, especially chromoly, all we use is chromoly, so it lasts within reason. Look at those glasses, dude. Whoa. Oh. All right. Got these things chunked out. Sometimes I'm a little more careful with moving stuff around like aluminum, not scratching it. If I know I'm just gonna, let me get this thing going here. If I know that I'm just gonna, you know, have to weld and blend and sand and do all that, then I won't put as much care into it. Obviously, I'm not gonna like go deep on these things, but I mean, if we're moving them around like this on the table, I just make sure I'm conscientious about not having big chunks of shit under them where they move around, but I'm not too concerned. I don't know if that even made sense. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna transfer. I have enough of our information here off this template where I can at least lay out where the brake's gonna be. You know, that's gonna be the return to mount to the cab, the lower portion of that third window. So I'm gonna pop the brake out. I'm gonna do a little bit of brake, and what I will have to figure out, with, and I'll keep doing a test it, is that's gonna dictate that angle. You know, when we put the brake in there, it's gonna dictate that. And really, this is our reference. So I just wanna make sure that's the brake I'm gonna put in where it's gonna give me that wall. So I gotta really kind of make that count and see where that's gonna be, because that will dictate that lower shape. I think I did an inch and an eighth, consistent. Yep. The other classic mistake, again, I mean, I know, like, I say all this stuff because I've done all of it, but another classic mistake is like, oh, you got two pieces, just lay them out the same, but no, because one's for the other side. So you gotta make sure that you keep that in mind with like every single step of the thing, or else you're just gonna build two scoops for the same side of the car. Pretty cool. It's that World War II apron brake. Actually got this apron brake from Taylor's grandfather, and I didn't know what it looked like at first. He's like, hey, do you want a sheet metal brake? I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. So go over there, and there was a tree growing through this, like it must have started as a little blade beam, and then it just grew all through it. So I had to sit there and cut it out of the tree first. And then we took it, put it in my driveway, and then I degreased it with like the nasty purple shit, and sprayed it off and scrubbed it and wire wheeled it, and Brian Cook helped me do it, and it's been with me ever since. And it's just such a solid machine. Well, let's say tool. So I already don't want to do too much. I'm nervous about that. I'm just going to take a test hit and go look at it. What I got right now, I got all the holes transferred into this panel. Well, our lower part thing. What I'm gonna do is just start locating onto the cab by transferring. Yeah, it's actually exactly already laid out, so we're right on. So I'm gonna start with that one, cleco it, work my way to the back, and then I can really start adjusting this angle and figuring out what's right. A little bit of a taper on the window where it's leaning back that I'm gonna have to digest. That's right when I wanna fasten that rear guy, she don't wanna go, which is not terrible. Yeah, it just tapers hard right there. Could probably stretch the panel. Again, that's what we're going for. Kind of have that already. I just don't like how this is reflecting because it's hard to see now. But you get the point, so we're working with here. Just don't know, like, it's hard to see. But I think this might work out proper. The next thing is this angle. So getting that right. Making sure it doesn't hit the crest of the cooler there. And still retains the same plane as the side surfaces here. I might even have it taper some. Kind of like it, have it taper some. Let me put a template on there. So yeah, just proof of concept on this stuff. Just trying to, I don't think it needs to be out this big, and I left it long on purpose, and then this is kind of just checking angles. It's gonna do a heavy taper back into this piece. So there's gonna be definite shape change that I need to start preparing for. But I am definitely safe to, you know, get a nice profile cut on this bottom surface. And when I get that, then I can start this top one. And once I get the top surface, then it's gonna lend to just pretty much connecting the dots, A, B, and then putting C in. So obviously, you know, I'll trim, I'll get this profile where I want, where that's really gonna tell me this, with the scoop, you know, the shape of that scoop, where it's gonna taper down into this pocket where the C pillar, well, I guess this would be a D pillar, you know, go right into that index there and kind of raw up and come out, you know, in a fashion that bows, almost similar to the kick and the bad side. But what I'll do is I'll trim this one where we want it. I'll leave a little bit of room so I can roll the edge to get that radius we want. And then boom, I'm gonna build that top one. I think what I like with this top one is instead of having just a parallel with the window line, I wanna get a taper going. Something that draws tension back here with reason. So, you know, I gotta be careful of my clipping point, because if I start wide here and then I go too tight, I'm gonna start intersecting and getting in this guy's way, and this guy's king of the castle here. So just wanna, you know, really locate my profile line here. I think the break I'm gonna stick with right now, like this angle here, I'm gonna leave. And then once I get that profile, I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna replicate it. I'm gonna put it on the passenger side. Or on the driver's side, and then we'll be straight to start our next piece on the top. Feeling a little awkward, as usual. So I don't know if you can see that angle. Thing checks out pretty good. Kind of just, the only like constraints I like look at is this, getting this angle right, and I know that's hard to see. It'll have a more dramatic taper than the window line, which I think will be nice. Also, if you see like the Sharpie there, I have like a taper built in here that's gonna really add, again, that tension. So what I'm gonna do right now, I have both sides done. Clecos are in where our rivets or fasteners are gonna be. I'm thinking just rivets, it'll be cleaner and easier. And then I'm gonna start this top portion, get a template made. I have this profile trimmed into here. I think you can kind of see how it works, that, you know, it draws out, so everything comes together in this corner, and then this draws out. It's a good shape. I've kind of looked at it from a lot of angles. What's going to be cool is this opening is going to be pretty big, and then it's almost going to have this little tunnel going through here, which I think will just be a really dramatic body line. But with the Raptor conversion on this and what the fenders do in the front, I think having that channel work is going to be really cool in there. And you can see it's almost like sculpted out, and same with like the taillight area. This is kind of a sculpted out area. So I just think the way this will be presented when it's done is going to really hit. So I'm going to carry on. Look at that mess already. This thing's already getting wild. Well, I got one cold brew down. We're just hit that PM, going deep on the second one. This is our top chingaderas here. It's got a couple different lines in it. I know I'm going wild camera guy here. So you can kind of see there's a taper. Obviously the taper, the tightness starts and then draws out towards the rear. There's a couple different lines on here because I was trying different brakes and different space. But this is like the big trim. And then we'll fine tune the trim because I still have some space under here. And I want to get this thing damn near touching here just so it's not super bulky. But you can kind of see the shape already. So we're going to get something really good out of this, in my opinion. So yeah, going sending. Gonna make both of these out of aluminum. Same thing, locate the cleco locations or the fastener locations up top, get that fastened on there, and then we're gonna do a major trim to figure out our vertical profile and our inlet, because the inlet, that's the other thing, is you can kind of see where this cut is. I wanna make sure that top cut is in line. I think we're gonna bank on the door part line here, kind of get that same angle there, maybe even a little more aggressive, just to figure out what's right. But you definitely don't want to go like that. That's going to go against everything. So I think if we go like this, maybe take that line and apply that here, and that might do it, or something in between. Got to figure that out, and that's why we're going to leave this top part larger so we can cut it down and trim it. I like to kind of keep the stuff on the ground picked up like with just a localized scrap bin, so it doesn't add up, because these little things, these little curly cues, are these badass RC car coils. They just really get your feet, and they go everywhere and they roll around and they just have a really good time. So you can pick them up, the more often the merrier. So I have my stuff roughed in right here, 2 pieces. Got to get these radiuses a little more proper and accurate. Transfer the brake line on both sides. Make sure to flip it for each side pertaining to the left and the right. And get these things located on the car. Whoa! Ooh wee! This is gonna rip. Just a little more brake into this thing. We're in a good spot. All right. Actually, I can take some out of that. I want this face to be as like slope, you know, I want the angle to be sloping down as much as possible. Yeah, now we're talking. Liking the crap out of that. So if we want this thing to sit level, got some trimming to do for sure. A little bit of roll in this thing, which I think I can just clamp down. Feels like that with my hands, where the surface of this is actually a little bit, I know it's straight here, and then it tapers, draws into the rear. Not a huge issue, but this is gonna get us right where we want. So I'm gonna trim a little bit of the back. And I think I'm gonna get this clecoed before I do anything else. But at first, I'm gonna replicate this angle to the other side. Moving right along. Both sides are on. Upper cleco's on. Kind of starting to see a profile. This looks like a lot of material right here. So I'm gonna trim as much fat as I can off of the outside of the surface. Then, like I said, figure out where our opening is gonna be. But that taper, I'm liking what that does. Got both sides styled. So I already have the spoiler roll into this guy, and to the bottom, have the corners prepped, everything's gonna D8, all the scuffs are off. So essentially, these two pieces are ready for the cap here. What I want to address before that, because once I get this tacked on, then I won't be able to address the mesh that needs to go in here. We still need to have some enclosure of mesh in here. So I'm gonna make a template for something, you know, there's also an area I wanna close off up in this void here. So I think I can kill two birds with one stone with most of that area. I think that we'll still have to have a backing area to really seal the cab off. But right now I'm gonna build kind of a perimeter frame, have that thing ride pretty deep in here, and then kick out, and I'm gonna have it meet this wall. So we'll have it break somewhere kind of in line with the cooler, come back out to this wall and be in line here. What that's gonna do, I'll make a solid piece and then I'll do a nice cutout in here. Make sure I leave enough room for the hardware to hold this thing in here, as well as a lip for the hardware to mount, or to, you know, holster the mesh. So I'm gonna get that going right now. You know what I noticed when you wear boots? They make you taller. They always make you feel like a little more of a man than you are when you're wearing them, because you're just that much. You got that extra inch or so, you know? Comfort over everything, right? I used to wear steel toe boots. I had to wear steel toe boots working structural steel and doing ironwork stuff. And it's kind of one of those things in my past that I don't ever want to have to do it again unless I absolutely have to, because now I have the freedom to wear something comfortable, and especially actually working. You know, I'm constantly on my feet, constantly doing stuff. I'm not sitting in an office. I'm working every day. So having a comfortable shoe, where it's more like an athletic shoe, something that can make you run faster and jump higher, is the most optimal thing for myself. I still have my old work boots in the garage, and they're kind of like a, you know, keepsake from my past. This is what I got. Sealed, everything's sealed in. This is gonna be like an interior piece that's gonna house the stainless woven mesh. But you can see that it's sealed, so it has a break. The break starts later, so you're still gonna get that opening, and then you're gonna have a secondary surface change. I'm gonna put a break in the stainless mesh as well. But this is all sealed. This is enough of a template for me to do my thing. I'm gonna get this going, do the other side the same way. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break over here, so where this straight edge is and that profile, I'm gonna use as a surface to rivet, or I'll probably fasten this to the outside cap. So it holds it here, and then it holds it here. So 1, 2, and then it's just gonna seat on the edges on the inside here. So we're dialed. I'm gonna make these right now. Okay, so the drawing kind of shows like a small perimeter in here, but what needs to happen is, you know, if there's debris, say this thing goes bushwhacking or it slides sideways into a bush, it'll go and it'll just ruin your cooler and all the fins in there. So we do need to have some kind of mesh retained in there as like a protective barrier that's still going to flow air. I have our template transformed into our aluminum sheet. It is located on the sill of the window there, 1, 2, 3. You can see it's sealed. It's directing the air just like it should. When this top cap goes on, then this will be flush. We will run 2 more fasteners, you know, something like that, that'll kind of capture this thing and hold it tight to our top cap. I did experiment with a couple different shapes here. Obviously, like I thought about running 2, and then when you have this cover on here, it'll kind of be cool, like it leads 2 into there, but more likely than not, I'm just gonna have this one big opening. So the next step here is to identify the template for this top cap. That's really what's going to turn this thing into a scoop. You can see that I'm working on that over here. So it's pretty nice. It's like a really dramatic kind of leading edge. I got that angle. Remember I talked about getting this angle dialed. If you look at this trim, it looks like a lot right now, but it actually needs to do that. So we got that dialed. Slope kind of going in there, and then it's got a pretty cool opening here. So this side's done just the same way with that inner enclosure, and then we'll do the cutout for the woven mesh. It'll have a cool break in it, super functional. The other detail that we want to look at, I can kind of go through it right now, is, you know, let's look at the other side. So obviously the air needs to come in here. This is kicked because the design of this is to have an inlet and then an outlet. So this like black area is the exit pathway for the air that's coming in. So really this is, you know, if you look at the top view of this thing, of this truck, and this was the window area, you're really sticking the cooler here, and it's got this little enclosure, and the air just going through here. That could be a cool shape. And then it's coming back out. So what I want to get going here is like a nice, another ventilation like opening here, done properly where it looks good and it works. So, you know, same kind of thing. We can kind of get a win in here with having a surface here, and then it'll be a breakup, like a, I think I'm going to lead off, like let the bead roll lead off there. Something like that. So, and then obviously this will all be like your stainless stuff. So bead roll will step down here. So this will be your surface, step down, go in the valley, step back out, go across. So that'll have a little surface change. It'll break up that big space, and it'll just be super functional. And then these lines actually indicate where that return is. So we're gonna have an invisible piece in here, and then we'll have little hardware fasteners right there. So that's what we got. I'm gonna get these going. I'm gonna fine tune them and get them ready to do a final layout here per side and get that dialed, bead roll that before I tack all this together. And that's where we're going next. Get that little intermission cleanup. Sometimes it just gets too much, where there's just too much crap everywhere, and it's like having a really dirty room or coming home to a dirty bed. It just, you know, or unmade bed, I guess, or both. But it's good to just clean up every once in a while. Gives you a little refresh. So I'm just making these a little bigger than the original template for the side caps. Probably gonna spray Dicom on this stuff on the backside just to get a clean scribe, because I'm not able to get into the backside. I'm only gonna be able to kind of reach around, whoa, 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 and just have like a bent scribe to get that stuff. So Dicom's just the marking like layout ink or fluid. It's available in like a spray or a wipe on. I'll probably just use the aerosol. So gonna get this guy cut out and then spray these guys, get them on there, scribe them, trim them, and get ready to just get them where they're close enough, like I know the edges are right, where I can get that bead roll in, because I really want to tack them on, but I can't tack them until I get the bead roll established into these things. So my little cart here, check it out. They have red too. I like the blue. If they had green, ooh, they might have green, but I'm a big fan of green tools. So anyways, this is your aerosol. This guy's, for obvious reasons, cheaper, but if you have to do like big areas, or you want to even like wipe your chromoly plate before you cut it or lay it out, like you could cover a whole expanse of it with just a rag and you know, just pouring the fluid on. So the aerosol just hits different, and it smells pretty good too. And I'll just compromise some of the table. It comes off pretty easy. But just for ease of applying this stuff, I just lay it on the table. It's so blue. Alrighty, getting these guys on the car, and we're gonna scribe them and trim them and kind of see. Let me grab one of these. So that's gonna be this. Don't get confused, man. I think it's that guy. Yeah, that's right. So right here, you can see this thing's big. Whoa, go on. You can see my overlap under there. So I just got to get in there. I can scribe the blue. It's going to stand out. Same with the bottom. And then we'll have a solid trim where we can really get some shape. I can't wait to see this taped in. I mean, look at what a bold shape that is right now. That's living large. So this is the satisfying part. When you start actually taking all the pieces and then getting them into a three-dimensional shape. And really being able to fine tune it, and then that, you know, just then the details just make it so much better, and then you finish it, and just the hard work pays off. You know, all the foundation stuff and figuring out the hole spacing and all the bullshit, it pays dividends once you get to a point where you can really start to see the end result. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do one first. What's gonna be the harder side? I think the top, so I'm gonna trim the top first, come back, set it, and then I'm gonna trim the bottom, just in case something sketchy goes down. Now I'm not gonna do the whole thing, because what I wanna do, this might be dipping, not straight. So what I can do is I'll just do my start and my stop, and then I'm gonna take a straight edge and hit that thing, and then when I go to install it in here, I'm gonna assure that I'm gonna have a nice straight crispy edge. Where's that black mamba, boy? There it is. This thing came with my World War II sheet metal brick as well, and this is a badass straight edge. It's like some kind of tool steel, but it shows how to make like boxes. It's for making like electrical panel boxes. It's got liquid measure, straight dry measure, cans, flat top, cans, pitch top, like just badass thing. I wish it had a date on it, because I guarantee it's from World War II. All right, check the scribe marks. Oh yeah, it's gonna be way different. Yeah, it dips down a bunch. You can tell that this is a really prominent line. When you get like the die come on there, then you can see like the visibility on that thing is crispy. Okay, grab that old green tape here. It's weird doing these episodes, like the Fab Diaries stuff, because when I fall out of doing it for a couple weeks, it's just hard to get back in the swing of it, and then I start like feeling, and I'm like, oh, this is good, this is comfortable, this is good, because no matter what, it's not easy to talk in front of a camera for myself. So it always takes like a warm-up phase. So this thing's trimmed, but not like all the way. It's just trimmed appropriately where we can still kind of adjust things. I don't know if the tape's gonna hold that. I think I'm gonna have to put some pre-bend in it. That's an easy table thing. Yeah, that's me. Don't worry about what I'm doing, dude. Okay? Don't worry about what I'm doing. This is gonna give me just enough information to get my bead roll and my shape for the back. And that's all I'm focused on with this panel right now. Well, both panels. I think we only need one to figure it out. Bad boys are taped, they're kind of tucked into the return of the hatch here. Angles look pretty good. I mean, it's serving one function right now, and as it says, it's a cooler scoop and a duct, but it's really kind of gonna be a entrance and an exit. So we have most of the entrance solidified. We have our top and our bottom skins tightened up and done. This is semi-tight. We need to apply our design here. I'm gonna go home and draw that because I don't feel comfortable with what I have here. I wanna see it on the computer, see it from far away. So same with this side, we just got a trim to do here, but everything else, I mean, it's in a good spot. Looks aggressive as shit. We'll get some of that angle out of there. We'll just have the angle from the brakes, but we'll roll this, so this will be a lot smoother. And then once we break it up with like a opening, like a ventilation opening, it's really gonna seal the deal, and it's not gonna be as bah, boom, coo, like there's a turbine back here or something. All right, brought some of this home so I could get the layout kind of set up for the bead roll and for the ventilation. That's done on both panels now. Let's see, our final trim's done. We've located the inner return in here where the clecos are. So 1 cleco, 2 cleco, 3 cleco. That was a cool thing. It makes you want to keep going. But these are that, you know, that's that inner mesh area with the return. So this is direct contact, so it's sealed. At least it seals it. It needs to be direct air. And that also locates our piece. The trim is pretty good. This is gonna just fade off. I think we'll have to put an end cap on it. And then I'm gonna cut this last, but I wanna get all the welding done on this first before I put a cut in here or put a hole in here, because then when you weld, if you had a hole in here first, it's gonna do some weird distorted shit right here. That's just extra work. So this has already been in the process of being tacked. This one's putting up a lot more of a fight than that side, especially in this area. So I have a clamp here. I added a cleco just in a tasteful way that'll work. So we'll use that as a fastening hole. I'm gonna do it on the other side, but the only issue I'm having here is I came up a little short right here. I can make that go away, but just kind of showing you what we're working with. So there's some suck there. I'm gonna keep going on this side, get everything tacked top and bottom, and then I will move over to the other side. Since this has the fuckery here, I'm probably gonna identify that and address it and get to the other side. So just a reference. That's what we're working with here. That's my revision. So I'll get that thing printed a little later, but right now we're just charging. We got this side welded, all the seams. I got most of the fuckery out of this back part. I gotta weld the rest of this on the table where it's not getting close to the cap. But everything's fit, seam welded. There's a little discrepancy here with the height of this panel hitting here, and I think just bending it over, it's kind of made a surface change here. I don't know if you can, well, you can't see it, but I can feel it. So I got a trim in there, and then just hammer that back out, which is not a big deal. Liking what we got here. Looks good. This is gonna close. Like I said, this hatch, it's gonna need a back treatment here. Not the end of the world, but this hatch will kind of seal the deal on all this stuff. Let's do the top. I know that the side piece here, this side panel is true straight edge, and when you roll this stuff and you form it, this looks straight, but it's not, and that's why I rely on this to have the integrity of being a straight edge. So I know if I fit this from point A to point B, whatever happens in between here is straight, and that's the shape I want. I want that straight profile. So prying that part is just part of the job.
So, you know, like I've talked about a lot of the fabrication, some of the process takes longer than the actual design and creativity and stuff. So I can sit while I'm welding the stuff. This is just a basic seam that's gonna get sanded down and buffed out. So it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as I'm getting good penetration where I can sit here and start thinking about my next steps. And one of the things I'm thinking about right now is the rear cap. I think I need to build that rear cap first before I do any sanding, you know, or finish work on this thing, because that is the last bit of fabrication and welding. You want to try to chunk out as much big stuff as you can, unless there's part of the process that involves, you know, some fluff and buff before you're adding more parts and welding. Shapes on this thing are really coming to fruition. Pretty stoked on them. So right now I drew this on here as like a split. I know there's a lot of crap going on here with that middle portion there. Would be like our split here. So I'm just experimenting with different options. I also drug a tail into this opening. Obviously I'm not going to do both, just seeing what makes more sense here, or where you cross the line to be extra. It's really easy to do on a part like this, and you're looking at an Explorer overall with Raptor glass, and then you do this, and if you do too much, then it looks different from the rest of the truck. So just seeing what options we have here. Functionally, that crossbar would take away air, and this opening would exit more air. So let's just send it like that for now. We're gonna run some kind of a layout like this. The one thing I need to be concerned about for the driver's side is there's a fuel fill. So you know, it's deceiving because our runoff, the end of the panel's here. So I gotta figure out where this guy's gonna go. If we can get a kick in it and pop it in the right place, then I can still get that cut with that ear there, but it might be asymmetrical, and we might have to do a different style opening here to favor the fuel fill. I do have these other front, the kind of the trim places, or the trim pieces in there for the mesh. Those are laid out. So Colin's gonna help me with these. I have one done. They're relatively the same. So, I mean, there might be like a little bit of trimming, but everything else, like dimensionally, is the same. So I did a big wide junk driving perimeter, just so it shows up so I could see what it looked like on the truck, but this is easy to replicate. I also listed off the what radius we're using on this, so he can, there's enough information on this one to get the party started on the other one. So same thing here, 1024. Nuts are at these, they don't need nut plates, but maybe we'll throw those in anyways. I'll leave that up to him. And then everything else will just be a cut. I don't have hardware locations laid out yet because I just want to put them back on the car and make sure that we're not going to dive into part of the body or something. While that's going on, right now I am going to flip this thing over. I'm going to finish, like there's a Gappy McGapperson here that I got to fix. And then I am going to flip this over and get the backside welds and then start sanding this thing to pieces.
All right, I am kind of clearing off the table right now. The welding is done on the insides. I stitched the insides. I welded the bottom, didn't really have good penetration, this bottom guy, so I welded the whole thing on the inside. I'm just getting the table clear. When I do some of the sanding and stuff, I just like to clear as much stuff as I can, especially like electronics and everything, just because the aluminum dust gets everywhere. And I also set up like a fan just to blow the crap away from me. So I'm gonna set up, get the process going with sanding and finishing these things. They're gonna need a really good corner file, and then we'll be able to kind of put them back on the truck and figure out the opening for the ventilation and just keep going. So a couple quick things to touch on really quick, just a couple quick things really quick. These guys are welding partitions. I think they call them welding curtains. When you're doing stuff in a small space, we have a small little studio, and working on a vehicle, if you're throwing sparks or you're welding or whatever, it's good to just contain the vehicles. The other thing that it does is this directs your mess. So if you're grinding on something, say you're working on this thing and you're doing a bunch of crap here where you need to throw sparks or grind, you're not just throwing all that into the other areas of the shop. You're hitting this, falling down, and you're literally able to just sweep and blow it all out from here. It's the same thing, like I have my fan going. Look at that cart. Cart's going hard right now. I have my fan blowing. So really, I'm gonna direct all of that, the aluminum dust, out the door. I'll probably open up the door a little bit more and work right here. And that's gonna have kind of a contained flow to get the mess just a little under control. Whew. Whew. Another thing, first step on this is going to be a 4.5 inch electric sander with a 60 grit disc from Jag 10. We'll include the link for that. Just wanted to show you something as far as sanding this thing. You know, you can go hard with these and really create some damage and almost ruin your piece as far as the finish work goes. But if you're careful, they're very efficient because you get a lot of stuff done with electric versus just, you know, sitting there with air and fine tuning this thing. At the same time, this kind of disc, it covers a lot of ground. So once you start doing this, you can also cross it and it almost levels all this out for you. The one thing you don't want to do, and I was going to show you, is go below sea level. So say this is my corner and I have a big old bird shit of weld here I need to take down. And this is my material, all right? So what I want to do is, instead of removing, like sanding this all the way down to the bottom here, because what could happen there is if you sand way too deep to the edge, then you start with this, you might dig in and you might just chalk up your whole corner and just really lose the natural radius that it was built for. So what you want to do is just remove enough material. So say this is where your material was. Remove enough where you just have a tiny bit, and then you can fine tune that with the sander, and then really fine tune it with the file. You just, if this, you know, I say sea level, so say this is the top of your panel, and this is the underside. You know, you don't want to cavitate the panel. You don't want to go in and remove material to the point where even if you can't see it, you're going to have that there when you sand it finely, and when you paint it, you know, or powder it, you're going to see almost dents or craters in it. So it's just really important to try to respect the top surface and keep that thing streamlined. Just whatever you add to it, just remove that, but never go below, or at least try not to. So this concludes our first part of this series with the side window ducting. The next part, we're going to start with you know, full fluff and buff, take the welds down, smooth everything out, get the ventilation holes cut in here, get the stainless mesh set up, locate our hardware mounting points, and install onto the Explorer. Again, I love these things. I think this is going to be a really nice, functional, aesthetic upgrade for this thing. So thank you guys so much for your support. Like, comment, subscribe.